Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Golojuch Jr. I am the former chair of the 2022 and 2024 DPH State Conventions. Uh, Thank you for spending part of your evening with us here tonight. Here's what we're going to be going over tonight. Do quick introductions, which I just did. We're going to go over state party structure, the state convention structure, the elected delegate allocation, and walk through the timeline on what to expect on Friday, Saturday with a mock morning convention schedule based on what's been provided as well as past practices. Then the basics of the DPH State Convention and a quick overview of the committee reports. At that point, I will turn off the recording and we'll go to question and answers. Okay, so up first, the party structure. Here you see how the party looks. You see at the top of the pyramid is the top of the org chart is the delegates, because the delegates are who control this party. What they decide at the state convention on Saturday will dictate what our party does for the next 2 years, all along with what they've done, delegates have done at other state conventions. Below that is the State Central Committee. That is the governing body for the Democratic Party of Hawaii that that oversees the party between conventions. On the same line as that is the Executive Committee. They can act in the Central Committee's stead in between Central Committee meetings. And the people from there come from the body of the State Central Committee. You'll see below that the standing committees. Those are all the different committees that you'll find in this Constitution and bylaws. Underneath there, the different county committees, as well as at the very bottom there is the precinct clubs. In 2022, we removed precinct clubs from our state party structure overseeing. They now are the full kuleana of the county committees where they belong because they're grassroots. The state has no business telling counties what those precincts clubs do and their structures and how they operate. And so there you'll see the executive director off of the executive committee. The executive director serves at the will of the chair. They are an at-will employee, which means they are hired with the concurrence of the state central committee, but can be fired at any time. Underneath them is the DPH staff and headquarters volunteers. Off to the side, you see the Young Democrats. The Young Democrats are not a caucus. They are actually they are actually authorized through the Young Democrats of America. They are the youth arm of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. So they do have to follow some of our rules, but they get a lot of their direction from the Young Democrats nationally. And then there's the caucuses. They are semi-autonomous and they are issue oriented. They are traditionally are there to represent underrepresented and minority groups that do not have the same power as everybody else. And um, so that's the structure of our party in a nutshell. Up next is the DPH state convention structure. The controlling documents are the DPH Constitution and bylaws. Then the standing rules. The standing rules are voted on by the State Central Committee, crafted by the Convention Committee, and then they will be approved at the state convention. And we'll cover that a little bit later. The Convention Committee is one of the standing DPH committees. The chair is Bronson Silva, and the vice chair is Micah Kosasa. There was a Joelle was one of the other vice chairs, but she needed to step away for personal reasons, and unfortunately, they didn't replace her. So there is no somebody who does not identify as male on that, and no neighbor island representative in the leadership of the convention committee. There are the standing admin committees, which is credentials and elections. Credentials oversees the waiver program as well as credentialing all delegates, making sure that they're members of the party, they live in the district where they were elected, and they handle any challenges to a delegate. And then the elections committee does that, oversees the elections. Then there are the standing committees, the affirmative action, platform resolutions, and rules. And we will cover that, exactly what those do a little bit later. There are three different delegate types for the state convention. They're the elected. You were either elected at your biennial elections back on March 4th or by your district council at a district council meeting after that. Then there's appointed delegates. Those are elected alternates made delegates by the district council or district chair. And then lo and behold, the automatic delegates. Those are all current elected Democratic officials, including nonpartisan elections, as long as they ran as a Democrat. State Central Committee members, your district chairs, and the former governors, lieutenant governors, and party chairs. The former governors and lieutenant governors must have run as Democrats to have become an automatic delegate. At the state convention, we're going to have two different elections. The first one is the party chair, and that's all delegates, and they'll be voting via paper ballot. The next up is contested state senate representatives to the state central committee, and those elections are open only to the delegates that reside in that senate district, and they are going to be done by paper ballot as well. Um, Delegate allocation. There was some misinformation out there, and this is about how many delegates every precinct has. So the elected delegate allocations, again, these are the ones that we talked about at the biennial elections. The baseline is 1,000 delegates. Then, there's a wonderful little formula out there, and we look at how your precinct voted, how many votes came from your precinct for the top of the Democratic ticket. In this case, it's from how many people in your precinct voted for Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz in 2024. And so they figure out what percentage of the total votes came from your district, and that's what percentage of the delegates you get for your precinct. But every precinct is guaranteed two elected delegates as long as there's one registered voter in that precinct. So that's why when you see here at the bottom, um, there is more than 1,000 elected delegates in 2026. They say there's 1,078 elected delegate slots there were 1,078 elected delegate slots available. Also meaning there was 1,078 alternate delegate slots available. In a non-presidential year, automatic delegates are barred from being an elected delegate. And that is to keep making sure everybody has a chance to be a delegate. The reason that's not the case in non-presidential years is because the DNC requires you to be an elected delegate to be able to vote for those people that are going to be delegates to the Democratic National Convention. Okay, timeline. First things first, the Friday timeline from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The registration desk and check-in desk will be opening in the Palace Lounge for the first time. Every delegate needs to check in. Any delegate can register and check in during this time period. That includes alternates appointed to become delegates by their district chair. By the And that can happen at any time if there's a vacancy. A valid credentials badge is required to enter into all the breakout sessions, which I think is weird because in the past we did not require that. You just had to be a member of the Democratic Party to show up for those sessions on Friday. Back when we did them at the Sheraton and the Alohilani, because not everybody can have Friday off. And then they have breakout sessions basically all throughout the day. Lunch is on your own. That evening at 5:30 p.m. is a welcome reception, which is a fundraiser for the party, so it is not included in your delegate your delegate registration. But the price for a delegate is $100, $150 for guests, and last time I checked, there are still tickets available, which was right before this presentation. So on Saturday, what's going to happen? Again, 7 a.m., the registration check-in desk will open again. You do need to be checked in or registered by 3 p.m. to be able to vote in the election for party chair or contested SEC elections. You'll have a continental breakfast. The vendor tables will be open. They'll begin the general session, and we'll go into all this a little bit more detail as we move along. But one thing I did want to point out at 9:30 is the final in-person deadline to separate any proposals from the standing committee reports for platform rules and resolutions. All separations requests are required to be submitted by the maker and by 10 other delegate signatures supporting the separation. Our keynote speaker will be Governor Tim Walz. Lunch will be 12 to 1, and then we'll go back into general session with voting for the state party chair at 3 p.m., but apparently they're going to be running voting all day. That's something new. And then we have to have a hard out at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So You come in on Monday, you come in on Saturday. We'll start with opening ceremonies. There will be an Oli, the posting of the flags, Pledge of Allegiance, national and state anthems, a brief overview of procedures, appointment by the party chair of the convention secretary, the recording secretary, the convention parliamentarian, um, convention elections officer who oversees the election, convention scribe, and sergeant at arms. And then by 9:40, we'll have our first credentials committee report. This will be the baseline when all votes, how all votes will be considered looking for. You cannot have any voting until the first credentials report is submitted and at least approved by the delegates. Approval of the convention's standing rules. This is where things, if people know what they're doing, can try to amend the standing rules. There are certain things that can be amended, certain things that cannot, per Roberts. Robert's rules is what governs the meeting, Democratic Party meetings. Then there'll be speeches by party chair candidates, approval of the convention agenda, treasurer's report, more speeches, explanation of the convention procedures and business. Again, with by 9:15 a.m., hopefully we'll have gotten to the affirmative action committee report. So that's a quick overview of that. Voting on standing committees. When they get to each of the committees, the chair will recognize the chair of that standing committee. The committee chair will provide a brief overview of the committee's report. Towards the end of their report, they will make a motion if there are no separations like this. On behalf of the committee, I move that the proposed 2026-2028 fund time plan for the Democratic Party of Hawaii, as recommended for the fund time committee, be adopted. With the proviso, blah, 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 that they can make any they can correct any non-substantive errors and conforming changes as necessary to the report, whatever it is. If there are separations, the motion will sound more like this. On behalf of the committee, I move that the proposed 15 amendments by the fund time plan of the Democratic Party, the amendments to the fund time plan of the Democratic Party of Hawaii be adopted, with the exceptions of the proposed amendments 2 and 5 to be decided separately, with the proviso again, blah, blah, blah. After that report passes, the convention delegates will then debate the remaining proposals separately. Keep in mind that if we run out of time, and because they always go last, any resolution separated out, not voted on, will fall to the floor, aka die. So there's that. The basics for the DPH State Convention. Moving on, at check-in or registering at the state convention, you'll be given two things when you check in: your delegate badge that gives you access to the convention floor, as well as the breakfast and lunch buffet lines, along with your voting card, which you will need to sign. And it will be used for making interrupting motions, which points of order, or appealing the ruling of the chair, and for voting. When making a point of order, no other motions will be allowed to interrupt. When recognized by the chair for a point of order, the delegate must then immediately identify the rule being breached. A delegate is recognized to raise a point of order. The delegate recognized to make a point of order may not make any other motions, nor engage in debate, nor make any remarks or comments for or against the motion being debated. So you have to say when you're recognized, point of order, I believe Rule 12.1 of the standing rules is being violated, and then they will ask, and then you'll be asked to explain why, if it's not obvious to the chair. The chair will either decide for or against. Yeah, point well taken. Whatever is being breached will be fixed. Point not well taken. You can then appeal the ruling of the chair, and we will cover what that actually looks like a little bit later. Again, if you don't like the ruling of the chair, you appeal the ruling of the chair. Voting, when asked if you support or oppose a motion, or somebody wants to call for division of the House. Keep in mind, note your voting card. Keep your voting card on your person at all time. Do not leave it on your table. You cannot let anybody else use your card. If you go to the bathroom, they cannot say put up two cards at once. If you do so, it can be confiscated if left unattended or in the possession of somebody else. And depending on the sergeant at arms, it can be a little difficult to get it back. If you if it happens, if like you hand it to someone else used multiple times, they can actually pull your voting card. So therefore, you would not be allowed to vote when voting cards are called for. But they do have to allow you to vote for the party elections. Okay, so you want to speak at the mic. I encourage you to do so that this is your convention, but when you get up there, please remember that you do need to introduce yourself every time. Include your first and last name. Pronouns would be great, along with your house, district, and precinct. If you don't know what those are, they should be on your badge. If they're not on your badge, your house district should be there, so at least provide your house district. You need to state your position. I rise in support or opposition to the motion before this body, or if you want to offer an amendment. And then you go into your thing. So go into your position or your amendment. Keep in mind when you're making an amendment, which it does need to be in writing to clearly indicate what words you're being proposed to either striking out and or what words are being proposed for addition for insertion. And they need to be provided to the chair before going to the microphone. Um, you cannot make verbal amendments without it being in writing. That you will be ruled out of order and told to have a seat. And you take that time to go write it up quickly. So after you state your position, you then provide your position or defend your amendment. If you are making an amendment, please make sure you have a second. Um, I've seen in cases where people make an amendment, they get up there, they haven't set up their second, and if people are tired, nobody may second your motion. Or other people may have pity on you and second your motion even though they don't agree with it, just for the purpose of debate. You are limited to a 2 minute speech, 2 minutes per speech, with a two speech limit per delegate on each debatable motion. So you get up there and you speak against whatever's being proposed. Somebody amends it. The whole thing starts over again. You can then speak again um, on that. Keep in mind, no wordsmithing is allowed at the microphone. If you get up there and you're like, I don't really like this amendment, I'd like it more if it said this. That is against the rules. You need to have it in writing if you want to amend the amendment, which can happen, but you cannot amend the amendment. So you can't go double. You can amend the amendment, but you can't amend the amendment. So just keep note that the chair may close debate after three delegates, not including the proposer or maker, have spoken in favor, and at least three delegates have been given the opportunity to speak in opposition to the pending motion. Depending on how things go, they can, like sometimes you'll see a long line of delegates wanting to speak on whatever's before the body. And because we have a hard out at 4, the chair does have the opportunity to shut debate after those 3 for, and 3 against on every motion. So if they get up, they make an amendment, someone makes another amendment. Yeah. Again, like it does with the speech limits, it does repeat. It does restart every time there's a new motion before the body. Okay, so voting on the floor. A motion's been made. There's something before the body. Unless there are 25 convention delegates that object to Jeff, when the chair calls for an objections, the motions will be adopted by general consent. If there are 25 objections, that then those that support the motion will be asked to raise their voting cards. The chair will notice the amount of voting cards raised. When done, you'll be instructed to lower your voting cards, and then the process is repeated for those that oppose the motion. If you think the vote is close and the chairs move too quickly, or you disagree with the call on the vote, you raise your voting card and call out division of the House as you may make your way to the microphone to identify yourself. This is a call. This is your own personal call, just from your perspective where you're sitting in the convention hall. So what happens with division of the House? This is not debatable. This is, what have you. What will happen is when division of the House is called, the Sergeant of Arms is going to be required to count the voting cards from both for and against the mo motion. And again, it is not debatable. This is what happens. And then we sit there and wait till they count and get the thing. And then we'll find out who won that vote. Reminder, you're not required to vote on every motion. If you don't feel like it, you're not into it, you don't have to vote on it. You're a delegate, you decide how you're going to vote. So what are we voting on? The first thing up is the ceremonial resolutions. These are non-policy, courtesy, or memorial resolutions. They are used to thank someone for their work for their party, which we do very little here, unfortunately, or memorialize a member that is passed. These are not separated out uh, as they do not create policy. Usually not separated out. You can separate them out if you choose to do so, because let's say you knew the person and there's a grave error in the thing. Do not separate it out because you wanted to add something or you didn't think they covered enough stuff in that resolution. If that's what you really wanted, you should have submitted your own. But only if there's a grave error in the ceremonial resolutions. And this will be my, what is it? I've been going to state conventions since 2010. I've never seen one separated out. But doesn't mean that won't happen this time. Who knows? Policy resolutions. These are all the other resolutions. They create policy for the party per Article 8, Section 8 of the DPH Constitution. They must be of statewide, national, or international implications, not county specific, because we believe in home rule, and the state convention should not be telling counties what to do. They are to give action to our platform, speak on an issue that the platform is silent on, or give direction to the SCC. They cannot make new rules or amend the current constitution or bylaws. If any of the resolutions do that, or someone perceives for them to do it, they can pull it, have it separated out, and ask for it to be ruled out of order. And so there's that. Resolutions passed at the convention stay in effect until they are either rescinded or amended at a future state convention. The SCC cannot touch them between conventions. They're there. They're there until the next time. The rules report. This covers the DPH Constitution and bylaws, which governs how the party works. The Constitution can only be amended at the state convention. Bylaws can be amended by the SCC between conventions, and there's a process that laid out in the bylaws and how that works. If you separate out a constitutional proposal that is tied to a bylaws proposal and what you want to amend or do, you need to separate both of them out. So the body can see how your amendment or what you're doing, how that impacts the bylaws amendment. The platform report. The party's platform provides the guiding principles for our party. The platform can only be amended at the state convention. Oh, look at that. We do have a platform. Oh, and there's a process on how creating it. Anyways, I get sidetracked. It has been crafted to cover big ideas. Uh, Details or specific events are what resolutions are made for. Um, the party, and just keep in mind, the party's platform and resolutions are there to tell everyone what we as Democrats, what we stand for, what Democrats in the state of Hawaii are fighting for or against, and provide our members tools to help in their advocacy. They are not meant as weapons. So there are those that go to the legislature and says, well, if you have to hear this bill, you have to vote this way because it's in the platform, or there's a resolution to that. You are there to encourage them because it's there, but we are not in the Democratic Party of Hawaii is not in the position to stop somebody or force somebody to vote a certain way because of this, because what's in our platform and our resolutions. There are other state parties that are in that position. We're just not strong enough for that to happen. And that's a whole other conversation that we can have at another time. So, party elections. There are two different elections. The first one is the party chair, and every delegate that is registered and checked in by 3 p.m. and present at the Hilton Hawaiian Village and the Tapa Towers gets to vote using the weighted vote formula. And we'll cover what that actually is in just a bit. For the Senate SEC members, it's every delegate from that Senate district that has a contested election that is registered, checked in by 3 p.m., and present at the Hilton Wine Village in the Top of Towers. And that is one delegate, one vote. How votes are cast in party elections? Paper ballot for both of them. Your vote, for your vote to be counted, you will need to sign your ballot. Per the DNC, there is no such thing as a secret ballot, secret voting. And that's because at the state convention, it's not just your vote. You are actually there casting your vote. You're representing people from either your precinct, your county, or your caucus. And they have every right, per the DNC policies, to know how you voted. So don't get freaked out when they say you got to sign your ballot. Now you know. And now, please, and I encourage you to educate your other fellow delegates on that one. The weighted vote. This is only used for party chair elections only. The weighted votes are defined as those delegates not registered at the state convention. Weighted votes shall be permitted for members in counties who needed to travel to another county to participate in the state convention. The total votes, included weighted votes for any county, shall not exceed their allocated total. Example: state convention is held in County B, but County A has 100 allotted delegates, but only 25 delegates are registered. That means every delegate that votes at the state convention from County A will count as 4 votes. Um, as I said before, it says it cannot exceed their allotted total because I know I gave you a really simple example, but in most cases it's not that simple, and they will carry the decimal point out 2 places to do the multiplication. If that goes over your allotment, and I believe it could go up to 0.4 over, because then we just round down anyways. But if it goes to 0.5, they will then have to go back and recalculate what that weighted vote looks like. Keep in mind that if someone's registered but chooses not to vote, that does not mean you get those votes are reallocated amongst the delegation from county A. They just lost those 4 votes. Because a blank vote is a vote, and choosing not to vote is also a decision that someone can make. But it will be registered that the person did not vote, or if they turned in a blank vote, it will be registered. Um, If the state convention is held in hybrid format or an electronic ballot is used, there is no weighted vote. I can tell you that during the process of drafting the standing rules, they were going to do an electronic ballot, but still require everybody to be present at the Hilton to be able to participate and vote and everything else. So, which means it would have stripped everybody traveling to Oahu of the weighted vote. So we did put a kibosh on that in the rules committee, the standing rules committee for the party. Okay. There are the 4 big reports. The affirmative action. The affirmative action committee looks at the affirmative action plan. They received no submissions to amend the affirmative action plan, and this, unfortunately, is par for the course for affirmative action. There's a great plan there now that what I hope they did was update the numbers to just make it the 2026, 2028 affirmative action plan so they can move that forward. But we'll see. The platform received 4 submissions, and all of the 4 of them were recommended for adoption. The rules committee received 6 submissions, and 5 were recommended for adoption, and 1 was not. The 5 proposals recommended for adoption were the Data Privacy and Protection Amendments. This is a package of amendments that came from the Standing Rules Committee that I just mentioned earlier. We were tasked over the last 2 years to deal with an issue that happened in 2024. In 2024, the former Oahu County Chair got a hold of the delegate list with all the contact information and turned around and gave it out, which was a direct violation of the candidate access policy. And then they refused to participate or help in the investigation to see how it happened and why it happened, and basically said, I don't have to, nah, 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 boo boo. And so we went back, we looked at it. We've now proposed these things to close up those loopholes, as well as to remind everybody that the database is the party's number one asset, and we need to treat it as like it were the rarest mineral on Earth and protect it with everything that we can. Um, so there's things for the Constitution as well as the bylaws to handle that. The other update is how the party-run presidential primary committee will do. It gives them more direction, more clarity to their roles, and basically telling them when things should be happening. Because it does happen every 4 years, and it does, if it's to do the PPP properly, it does take 4 years because currently the proposed plan has a guesstimated price tag of anywhere from $300 to $350,000. The other thing was to clarify the SCC officer eligibility and definition of candidate. We've always had a ban on the party chair off the chart party officers, and that is chair, vice chair, treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, and assistant secretary from being a candidate or chairing or being a treasurer of a campaign. Doesn't mean they can't volunteer. They just can't be a candidate and they can't run campaigns because of the access they have. And when you're running this party, and that's what the officers are supposed to be doing, working as a team, are doing, it does require your at least your most of your or your full attention, especially as we head into convention. You cannot, or being a candidate or running a campaign does also require your full attention to do either one of those properly. And that has always been the case, and there's been some sliding back. And so that was there to provide bright lights and on that. There's another amendment that allows caucuses and Young Democrats to endorse. They like I mentioned earlier, the Young Democrats are um, commissioned under the National Young Democrats, and caucuses are semi-autonomous. They already have their structures, they already have their bylaws, and how they operate. And so there's been a ban on endorsements, and the DNC has the last two SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, and threats, has been saying, why isn't this party endorse? Because other state parties endorse. But it was figured that we would the party would learn to walk before it ran, and this is a good way to start that and have that conversation later, as well as a midterm vacancy recusal. The one proposal not recommended for adoption was the midterm vacancy with regarding to ranked choice voting. For this proposal can be separated out from the report. It will take 2/3 of the delegates to agree to at least debate this issue. By separate, that's just the request to debate it is not debatable. So you just need to get 2/3 of the delegates. Um, there may be an appetite for this given the fact that other things may move quicker, and there may not be an appetite for it, just depending on the delegates. And if there's time. So if you get the 2/3 vote, then it goes into the vote. You can then, if you amend the proposal that's before us or that was proposed, the original proposal or what have you, but it would require 2/3 vote of the delegates. And then resolutions. They received 35 on-time policy resolutions with two late proposed policy resolutions. All of them that were recommended for adoption after some editing to them, some of them. And then 6 ceremonial resolutions that we know of that were submitted on time. And that was included in the report as posted. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. There's all the contact information you need. If you have anything that dealing with directly with the convention committee, I encourage you to email all of the people you see on there on the screen at once, and hopefully somebody will get back to you. I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording, and I will go to your questions.